Hey everyone, welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. In the last episode, we went ahead and took on Ishizu Ishtar. We had a pretty interesting match, because she managed to beat us once after we beat her, but we managed to make quick work of her right after that. And we're already winding down the opponents left in our 4th tier of duelists. All we have left are Yami Bakura, Kaiba and Yami Yugi. However, today we're going to take on Yami Bakura. Let me warn you, I'm not as pleasant as your host. Oh, right. See, when he said our host, I thought he meant, like, the host of a tournament or the game or something like that. But he's referring to Bakura, normal Bakura. The deck I've conjusted goes well beyond your meager imagination. Yami Bakura is a odd character because he comes up quite a lot throughout the series and kind of bugs, Yugi and his gang quite a bit. He doesn't really do anything too menacing, however, but he turns out to be the main antagonist of the entire series, which is... It kind of blew my mind, but at the same time I was kind of like, finally! It only took you 200 episodes to put your plan into effect. That being said, I've decided to go with a... Oh, great. You can go over that pretty easily. Decided to go with a sort of wind deck this time around. I was going to use a fairy deck. Since I went ahead with the, I used a fiend deck against an opponent with a fairy deck. I used a machine deck against an opponent that had relatively rock cards and ancient cards and stuff like that. So I figured it would fit in just fine. Alright, I'll just activate it. I was gonna go ahead and do that again for Yami Bakura, but I figured since the duel with, what's her name? Ishizu Ishtar was kind of long, and you got to see most of the fairy cards that were in the game already. I wasn't really able to think of anything too great off the top of my head that I could really do with fairies that would have been any different than what she had done. So I figured that would be kind of pointless. So I was trying to look up, or rather look through the deck of cards I have. Or not the deck of cards, Jesus. The bunch of cards that I have in the game. And I figured that a wind deck would be pretty interesting. What does this give me for each one? If there are monsters, the attack and defense are increased by no. Okay. I was hoping this would give me one for each one, but it's fine. Because I can just use its effect to summon another monster and actually do more damage than I would any other way. Alright, use the effect. And I'll be able to summon... I guess I'll bring in a Faith Bird. Now, like I said, I didn't use a fairy fairy deck because you've probably already seen most of the fairy cards, and they're not really that. There's not really too much to write home about. And I could have made a light deck, but that would have been a little too obscure, or not obscure, abstract. So there would have been too much strategy going on there. So I figured a wind deck would be a bit better, because there's not really too many wind monsters. There's a hell of a lot of dark and earth monsters, I'll tell you that much. Barely any fire monsters, a decent amount of water monsters and light monsters. But wind monsters, they're not really too many. Or at least any of them that are actually usable. I have pretty much all the usable ones in my deck, for the most part. And I pretty much just had to make it a beatdown deck with a bunch of cards of the same type, which allows me to use Aqua Chorus. But aside from that, really isn't really much else that I could do, because there's not really a lot of support for them either, aside from like Rising Air Currents and, Follow the Wind. But that's not really that great of a card. So, I'm kind of grasping at straws over here. I can't believe it! You've grown even more powerful than my wildest imagination. I felt something when you faced our host. I had no idea it was a premonition that I would be facing a true duelist this day. Same old, same old. go ahead and take him on again. Feeling pretty good about this win deck, actually. I didn't think it would actually do too good against Bakura. Playing against you is a very irritating experience. You seem to think you've put your heart and soul into your deck. Well, I think it's time to find out what they're worth. I mean, Bakura is not exactly the strongest duelist at all. If anything, he's one of the main duelists that has the most, I guess, blah deck. I guess it's referred to as the cookie cutter deck, which is just a bunch of cards that are good, but that are not really part of any significant theme. They're just random cards that are good. And that's done, I guess, for two reasons. One, because Bakura, or rather, Yami Bakura's actual cards, I don't have any cards, shit. But I have 2 Rising Air cards, what the fuck. His actual cards, most of them don't really make it into the actual trading card game that I can remember. And also, too, none of them were actually available at this time. Or at least in the TCG. It might have been available in the OCG, I'm not entirely sure about that. Do I have? Yes, I do. I'm gonna go ahead and activate 7 tools because I really need this graceful chariot to go through. Alright, what do we got? I got a Curie. Alright, so I guess I don't need Paradragon. Kinda just added that as a joke. And I guess I don't need Cyber Falcon since it's the same as the Kamikuri. If I want to activate a quick play. Oh, damn it, I forgot. Alright, it's fine. Because I can activate it to bring back Paradragon. I should have discarded Cybertech Alligator, but I forgot I had this face down. But it turned out for the best. We got this, which works out pretty well because I can use that in case I lose a monster, or rather, clarify, if my monster gets attacked, I can just use its effect to bring back another one, and later on I can get Aqua Chorus, which powers it up even more. So, doing good. But yeah, a lot of his cards, I think even to this day, most of them aren't really available in the game. That's primarily because, I mean, well, I'm talking about like his end deck, which he uses at the end of the series. The other stuff, like the no, I don't have this card. Never mind. I thought I had Aqua Chorus, but I don't. Oh fuck! I guess he activated swords and I forgot. The other cards that he uses, like what's it called? Like the Destiny, or the not Destiny. What is that? It spells out Death, or in the American version it spells out Final. Stuff like that is it comes out in later, in later games, and that becomes his deck pretty much. But that, wasn't around at this time when this game was, I guess, made. So they obviously could have added in. Would have been pretty interesting if they did. Why can't I destroy? Okay, I want to destroy. Well, I can't. There we go. Jesus, why is it so complicated to get to the other side of the field? It would have been pretty interesting actually if they brought over those sets of cards, because those are pretty. For this stage in the game, those are pretty advanced cards. Honestly, I don't even think it would have worked, which might be a reason why they didn't bring it over. Now that I think about it, because those are, in general, those are really hard cards to use and actually use effectively. So, granted, this game at the moment is really slow, but there's nothing really to support something like that. So, bringing those cards in for this game alone wouldn't have worked out too well. So I guess they kind of just copped out and just gave him a bunch of random ass cards, which is extremely lame. Especially when I first played this game, because I've always, seen Bakura on the show, and he did his whole little thing in that episode where he converted part of himself into the Millennium Puzzle and blah blah blah. I was always waiting to see where that happened, or what happened with that. But nothing really did for a long time. So it's kind of getting weary to see what kind of cards he used. And I discovered this game in between Battle City, and I figured, oh well, Yami Bakura's here. So it must be the kind of cards, that he'll use later on. Poor little young me to actually believe that. I think for a good while I actually thought he was going to use these cards, but he actually tried not to use it. None of them, pretty much, that I can think of. Yeah, pretty much none of these cards, unless he has. Nope, nothing. None of these single cards he uses in his actual deck, which is kind of lame. So I'm basically just facing off against a random opponent with the name Yami Bakura, which works out just fine because I managed to pretty much walk right over him. Not entirely, because I lost a little more than half my life points, but he actually wasn't able to do much of it to me. I don't actually think there's anything he can actually do, honestly, aside from annoy you with, you know, spell traps and monster effects. He has no real strong strategy for winning, which is why he's lost twice in a row. Yada yada yada, blah blah blah, I'm so evil, even though I have a really shitty deck. Yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! The Eternal Duelist Soul. I'm gonna have to go ahead and apologize for Yami Bakura's abysmal performance and his pretty lackluster deck building abilities, which is pretty funny, because if you lose to him, he actually says that his deck has taken him like 3,000 years to make, which is hilarious. When you actually think about it, they would actually even think about making him say something like that. But yeah, I'll see you soon.